Man, Your Turn to Die is good. And for good reason. I mean, first of all, it's free. Narratively, it's got all the things you'd want in a murder game ontological mystery, while adding a real element of pathos to the genre. Aesthetically, it's got a striking MS Paint retro horror art style and a cast of unique gaunt weirdos. And mechanically, it combines moderate narrative branching with a genre-blending mix of Ace Attorney, Danganronpa, Zero Escape, Werewolf, and Mario Party. It's insanely creative, frankly. No wonder, despite its humble origins, it now has a devoted fanbase, 2 manga tie-ins, and a novel spin-off. But, at least for international audiences, none of the game's high points would have ever mattered if it weren't for one thing: the game's incredible English fan translation. So, what makes it so good? Well, to explain that, we'll need to talk about translation theory. When we talk about the quality of a translation, we inherently have to think of it in terms of something. A theory, a measuring stick, or some quality that we can judge a translation by. And at least for our purposes, that quality is going to be equivalence. Now, to explain, in translation studies, equivalence refers to the idea that two things said in two different languages can mean the same thing. They can have equal value. From that, equivalence-based theories of translations then have two general assumptions. One, that, as stated, equivalence is possible, and you can say the same thing in another language. Two, that the goal of a translation is to create a target text that is equivalent to the original source text. Hopefully this seems fairly self-evident. As a criteria for assessing translation quality, matching the original is a generally valued quality by both audiences and translators alike. But wait, what does it mean to match the original? Well, you're probably familiar with the idea of there being some translations which are more literal and others which are more liberal. That is, some translations follow the original script word for word more, while others take more creative liberties and deviate further from the original script more. This kind of framing has a long history in translation studies, even going all the way back to Cicero, but for our purposes, we're going to look at this through the lens of a fairly common and influential theory: formal and functional equivalence. In this theory, these vague notions of literal and liberal get defined more precisely as being two approaches to translation: formal equivalence, which focuses on capturing form, grammar structures, grammatical constructions, word-for-word correspondence, and functional equivalence, which focuses on capturing function, the ideas of a text, and recreating the experience it creates in a reader. Which is better? Well, at least according to Eugene Nida, the linguist who developed the theory, it should be the latter. Translating consists in reproducing in the receptor language the closest natural equivalent of the source language message, first in terms of meaning, and secondly in terms of style. But why should that be? Well, to explain that, let's go back to Your Turn to Die to look at a case study. As the story unfolds, at one point the cast come across an in-universe computer with a file on it labeled Echi na file, H file, something that essentially means dirty, lewd, sexual, or porn file. However, when they open it, it turns out this was in fact not what the file name meant. The H/Echi didn't refer to the common Japanese slang at all. It was in fact an abbreviation for hacking. If you were to translate with your focus on the original words used, you might come up with something like H-file or Echi file. But if you were to translate with your focus on the original idea, like VG Person did, you might come up with something really clever, like backdoor.smut. In this case, while H-file is closer structurally to the original Japanese, backdoor.smut is closer to the original meaning of the Japanese. And the English translation of Your Turn to Die is full of brilliant translations like this. And I mean that both for the game as a whole, and literally the title itself, Your Turn to Die. If you were to break down the original title, Kimi ga shine tazuketsu desu gemu, as a linguistic interlinear gloss, you might get something like this. In this case, Kimi is a second-person singular pronoun, you. Ga is the subject particle, noting the subject of the sentence, which is you. Shine is the imperative form of the verb shimu, to die, becoming die or go die. Tazuketsu is the Japanese term for majority decision, majority rule, or majority vote. Desu is the English loanword death, borrowed into Japanese. And Geimu is game, the English loanword borrowed into Japanese. Now, look at the English fan translation title. Your Turn to Die changes quite a bit in some ways. It's a noun phrase instead of an imperative command. The Kimi pronoun has a familiar or affectionate connotation, which your doesn't have. Yet, it also retains basically all of the core idea of the title. And while Kimi ga shine sounds fine in Japanese, translating it as something like go die you ends up adding a sense of clunkiness and unnaturalness to the title, which isn't present in the original Japanese. Hence why in VG Person's translation notes, she explains that Your Turn to Die was chosen in order to emphasize the actual context of picking someone who has to die with a sense of inevitability that someone must. Additionally, she also considered other ideas like die my dear to try to translate the connotations of Kimi. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many examples of translation cleverness that come to mind. There's how she translated your debate life points, Hatsugen Ryoku, as clout. There's this character who, instead of saying a Japanese I pronoun, instead refers to himself as Omawari-san, a friendly, somewhat kiddie word for policeman. The nuances of this are hard to summarize, but for VG Person, she interprets this as a conscious effort to cement himself as the friendly policeman to the group. So it was obviously important to get this across. That's why when possible, she includes him referring to himself as Mr. Policeman or your friendly policeman. There's this useless number on the wall of the first death trap, a red herring designed to waste your time, which, because of the many ways a number can be read in Japanese, could actually be pronounced as iminashi, aka Japanese for meaningless. Despite being an inconsequential, deliberately obscure wordplay, VG Person later patched in an equivalent English pun, 3141, because, relative to pi, the number's pointless. There's even the titles of the original soundtrack, where they translated a pun in a character's theme, so no uso, so's lie, to reflect a similar meaning and wordplay in English. Not so. All these show the greatest strength of this translation, its ability to creatively adapt and generate new ideas for its English equivalents. Look up Hatsugen Ryoku in a bilingual dictionary and you'll get things like forcefulness of speech, influential voice. You'll never get clout as a translation. Throw H-file into DeepL and you'll never get something as smooth and creatively fitting as backdoor.smut. Simply knowing what the Japanese means isn't enough. You need to be able to write your own version of that idea. And that's what truly makes Your Turn to Die's English translation so brilliant. It has a brilliant translator. Someone deeply considerate of the original while also deeply creative. After all, art is a creative endeavor, and therefore translating art requires creativity. It requires a co-artist, a co-author, someone capable of analyzing and creating something beautiful from the framework of the original. That's what makes a great translation. A great translator.